Hi you guys, this is Jamie with Whatever's Clever Boutique, and I am so excited for today's tutorial. It is all based around these amazing Teckwrap Craft Pearl vinyls. They sent me this amazing box full of all sorts of pearl vinyls. We have the orange, we have the pearl black, the pearl lilac, the pearl blue, pearl white, pearl Tiffany, that one's my favorite, pearl pink, and pearl yellow. It also came with some transfer tape as well. You can never have too much of this, and the Teckwrap Craft transfer tapes are all amazing. So we are going to start, and we're going to make 2 tumblers today using this vinyl, and we're going to just wrap the first 12-ounce shorty from the Tipsy Magnolia with this pearl white. And we're going to do this like we do every other tumbler. We're going to measure it accordingly, and then we're just going to cut off a little piece of that backing and press it right down on our tumbler. I will say I recommend using your little squeegee tool here for this. It worked out okay for me initially using my fingers, and then it started getting all bunched up. Using the squeegee just allows everything to be pressed down evenly, and you avoid those little bubbles and stuff, but this was a small tumbler, so it was really easy to work out. Once we get that all wrapped, we're going to go ahead and take our X-Acto knife and trim off that excess, as well as pop any air bubbles that may have formed in your vinyl wrapping process. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my Cami Page Boutique edging tool, and I am going to edge the bottom of the tumbler for a perfectly straight line, and then take my X-Acto knife to trim off any of that excess on the top of the tumbler. Now for our second tumbler. I made this process way more complicated than it needed to be, but it would have helped had I started by measuring correctly. As you can see in the top right of my screen, I took some painter's tape and striped out what I thought was an accurate size for the stripes that we're going to cut out of each one of these colored pearl vinyls. And it ended up working okay. I just really did make this more complicated than I needed to be. But I cut each one at about, I believe it was a 1/2 inch wide. And here I'm just taking some painter's tape to line up those vinyl strips, and here's where I realized, shoot, my measurement was off. So all I did was just shifted that up a little bit, and then I made the white pieces that I'm going to put on the top and bottom just a little bit shorter. So it ended up working just fine. But had I measured correctly initially, you could avoid this little bit of a headache. It wasn't too bad though. Now I'm going to go ahead and start laying each one of those colored stripes individually, taking real care to make sure that I am laying these perfectly straight. If you get this first one off a little bit, all of them are going to end up being off, and it's just a super pain in the tail, let me tell you. But once we get that first stripe laid, I'm going to go in with that white on the top, as well as the rest of the colors in corresponding order. I am a big fan of the standard rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So I just can't not get away from that. I will always lay things in rainbow order. Once we get all of our stripes laid, we're going to go ahead and cut the edge off of the bottom and the top of this tumbler. Then we're going to go ahead and take our X-Acto knife and just trim off that excess of each one of our stripes of vinyl. Now we're going to go in with 1 coat of epoxy on both tumblers, but for our first tumbler that we did wrapped in all of the white, we are going to take some Frosty and Norma Jean from Peachy Olive Glitters, and we are going to add a little bit of that into some epoxy to give a little more depth to this tumbler. That epoxy cures, we're going to go ahead and start on our pearl white tumbler. I used the file from Bear Trend Designs for her layered leopard print. I will have that listed below. This is one of my favorites, and I cut out the dots in every one of the colored pearl vinyls. Then I went ahead and cut the outlines in the black pearl vinyl. And you can layer this all as one sheet, but because I have so many different color dots, I just cut out a couple of the outlines. That way I could mix and match them. But if you lay them all as one piece, it'll look something like this. This is my massive leopard print container, but you just lay it right over and it matches perfectly with those dots and the outlines. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just laying a dot and then taking the corresponding outline all across the tumbler. And there's no rhyme or reason here. The only thing I tried to get away from is by putting 2 of the same color next to each other. So I just took care to be sure that the color center dot I was laying was not next to that same color. How stinking cute is that? I absolutely love it. Now for our striped tumbler, we're going to go ahead and take our black pearl vinyl that we have cut out in the pinstripes with the file that I used on my website. As always, as you saw there in my bin, I cut out a whole bunch of pinstripes in so many different colors. In 3 or 4 different sizes. That way they're readily available anytime and I don't have to cut individual files each time I need pinstriping. So I went ahead and took my black pearl vinyl and I'm taking the smallest pinstripe that I have on the sheet and I am just going to pinstripe out between each color. This little stand that I have my tumbler sitting on is from Doobie's Treasures on Etsy. It is amazing for pinstriping. The 2 little rubber wheels, I call them wheels, they're not really wheels, but little rubber pieces on either side make the turn and flow of the tumbler when you're pinstriping so smooth. I highly recommend trying it if you haven't already. So we're going to do glitter booties, of course, and I have Nebula, Coastal, and Bunny Suit, all from Chase Ray. We're going to take our UV resin and mix a little bit of that Nebula with our UV resin, and we're going to put that into the center cavity of each one of the tumbler booties. I did remove that white cap that's on the bottom of these tumblers. I will link some videos below showing where I do that. If you know me, I do booties on almost every tumbler that has a removable booty. So now we're going to take some bunny suit and some coastal, and super easy, I'm just mixing those up. And on the leopard print tumbler, I'm going to use the coastal, and on the striped tumbler, I'm going to use the bunny suit. Once we carefully get those into each cavity, we're going to take our lighter to pop any bubbles, and then we're going to go ahead and cure that under our UV light for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then we're going to go ahead and take a little dollop of UV resin in the center of each one of those booties, and we're going to put our logo tag. And I don't have a video, but I did cure that under UV light as well for a couple minutes. Then we're going to go in with 2 final coats of epoxy just to be sure everything is sealed in and our tumblers are finished. You guys, this vinyl, I 100% recommend it. Look at the pearl under epoxy. It keeps all of its amazing shine, qualities, iridescent look. Like, they're just so amazing. I am obsessed with this vinyl. I use it all the time now for decals and names, you name it. It is now a staple in my closet. I will have everything that I use listed and linked in the description, I'm talking too fast, description box below, as well as some discount codes for you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you guys again soon.